Welcome to the very, very distinguished panelists. And I'm really excited to be here because, and we were chatting before that hydrogen is this buzzword in India. Everybody wants to talk hydrogen. I want to talk hydrogen. But like most people, we don't know that much about hydrogen. And here we have people who have a lot of expertise in working on hydrogen, working on technologies, working on innovations in the space. So I'm sure it's going to be a very, very enriching discussion. And let's start off right away. And Will, because you're sitting right next to me, maybe we go in this direction. And it'll be a series of quick questions and brief answers. And want to keep it interactive. So if any of the other panelists wishes to weigh in on an answer, please do augment, add on, disagree. But in the interest of time, let's not repeat a point that's been made already. Okay. So Will, starting with you. How important is green hydrogen to the future? And what are the 2 or 3 essentials without which you think it cannot happen?
Yeah, thank you. And really happy to be here. It's a pleasure. So green hydrogen at this point has probably got enough momentum behind it that it's going to play a significant role in the future. I think drawing back a little bit on the fact that it's a buzzword, that's both a blessing because we're getting investment into the sector. I think it's also potentially dangerous in that when we say green hydrogen, we probably, even on this panel, all have a different idea of exactly what that means. And the danger with that is that when you have people that are not advocates of green hydrogen, it makes it very easy to pick apart. And a good example here is just if we look, if some people claim green hydrogen is the energy storage medium of the future, just full stop, right? It's very easy for then someone to say, well then, let's have a look at the math. We have solar, and then we have an electrolyzer, then we're going to compress it or liquefy it, then we're going to run it through a fuel cell, and then we're going to run a car. And why are we doing that instead of just plugging a battery into solar? And we've seen that argument, and it's a useless argument. So I think when we look at green hydrogen, we need to look at more of the nuanced, most commercial projects. And we can talk about that more later, what I think those projects are. I think one of the critical pieces there is to view your green hydrogen as a monetizable stream. And you want to get the best return on your investment, and that means you better have a great offtake for your green hydrogen, and you better have a way to ensure you're making a lot of it and getting the most utility out of your assets, like your electrolyzer. And you need to look at the full system as an investment and get a good return on your investment. And I think it's great that the shift is now moving towards commercial green hydrogen projects as opposed to green hydrogen as a concept.
Okay, so a very interesting point that there is, even among the experts and existing users, there is not always unanimity of thought in what the potential is and where the use cases are. Okay, opens it up even further. Moving on to Michèle, who's done a lot of work at NG in the area of hydrogen. So Michèle, I'll just, for the sake of the uninitiated, and maybe most of the audience is a little more initiated than I am, but perhaps to get us all onto the same page, what has been the story of hydrogen and its uses so far? Because this industry, in the last decade or so, what has been the story so far? Where has the use been? And the major areas of application? And which countries or industries have really, done work in this area? So what's been the story so far?
Okay, be prepared, it's going to be a very long story. But in a nutshell, I think there is no size-fits-all solution, not at all. And as you mentioned, we can have very different views, but at the end of the day also, each and every country, the situation is quite different. It's quite different with regard to access to renewable energy, to green electron, and it's different with regard to policies also. The promotion and the support also of the country to develop greener solutions. But what they have all in common, it's affordability. So we all have to develop affordable solution for the citizen and affordable solution for the public bodies in order to accelerate the energy transition but at a reasonable cost, because it requires, in the early years, a bit of support for any element of the building blocks of the supply chain. So then in some countries, to be a bit more concrete, it could have started with transportation, public transportation, buses, green hydrogen buses, because it has been supported, and it is the case in France, the country I'm coming from. In some other countries, it could have started with blending. It was the case also, one case I developed in the past, in Australia, in the south of Australia, because promoted also. And in some other countries, it could also have started with the deployment of green hydrogen for refineries, as another example. But again, what it required is support to make it happen, and it's also investment into technology. And this is also the good news, because each and every country, they are really supportive to invest into technology. The only issue maybe is that each and every country would like to promote its own technology. So at the end of the day, what we have to find as a developer, the solution for a specific country. And if I take the example of India, India is pretty well placed for many reasons. First of all, huge potential and also very efficient renewable energy, green electron, really competitive price. Also, a huge potential, and you may elaborate on later on that, for storage, that then at the end of the day give access to 24/7 green electron. And this is the key element in the affordability of green hydrogen, to have access to 24/7, not cheap, but reasonable price for green electron. And then it's about us, a developer, to develop or to design the most cost-effective solution to provide the green molecules, be it hydrogen or be it any other derivatives, to the domestic market. And the demand in India is pretty important. Today, the production of ammonia, grey ammonia, is 5 million tons, and the importation of ammonia, production of grey hydrogen is 5 million tons, and importation of ammonia is 3 million tons. So it gives you a sense of the potential. And beyond that, also India is really well placed also to propose green molecule for countries like Japan and Korea, who are lacking from green electron and green molecule.
Thanks, Michèle, and I'm sure your words are music to the ears of the next two gentlemen sitting next to you, because both of them represent large renewable Indian companies and who are, I believe, very, very interested in looking at hydrogen. Forget looking at hydrogen, they've already made inroads into hydrogen. And Arnav, my next question is to you. I recently had a conversation with someone from your organization, and they said, we are moving from being a renewable company to being an energy transition company. And one of the biggest plays driving that transition is green hydrogen. So where has GreenKo identified, which are the key areas of potential, and what are the major challenges that you think are kind of, if there are any, that's getting in the way?
Thanks, Ritu. And thank you for having me here. So yes, GreenKo started as a renewable energy company, and over the last few years, we are transitioning more into a clean energy player rather than a pure renewable energy company. So, of course, the first step that we are taking is to move into the green molecules part, and I actually represent that part of the organization. And we believe that the road is really, as they say, the coast is clear. It's for us to now go ahead and do something in that, right? The market is there, demand is there, supply, that needs to be, somebody needs to do something about it. So we would like to do that. And then at some point, demand and supply has to meet in terms of the price point at which demand can be met. And that probably is the challenge today. When we talk about green hydrogen as an ecosystem or development of green hydrogen as an ecosystem. So if we look at a little bit more molecular level into what are some of those cost elements of green hydrogen, then we'll see that almost 70% of the production of green hydrogen, or the cost of production of green hydrogen, is actually renewable power, the electrons, right? So unless we are able to reach the lowest cost production of green electrons, green hydrogen cost will never go down. The second part then is are the electrolyzers. Basically, as far as I am concerned, the electrons and the electrolyzers are the two raw materials for the production of green hydrogen. And these are the areas that GreenKo today is focusing on. So on one hand, we have got an ability now to have probably the lowest cost round-the-clock RE power. And together with that, we are also investing on in terms of producing electrolyzers in the country, which will hopefully give us the ability to produce some of the lowest cost but quality electrolyzers. So both, when combined, will give us the ability to come to the lowest cost green hydrogen, and then onto the derivatives of it, like green ammonia or other hydrogen derivatives that you can talk of. But I think this is the area of focus that we have. We would like to go into the green hydrogen probably first through a derivative like green ammonia, because there is a market today, there is a demand, and we'd definitely like to be there.
Okay. Thanks for that. And, yes, very simply speaking, the two raw materials are green electricity and the electrolyzer. And at some point in time, the cost has to be optimal to get to any kind of significant play. I can see Shiromani nodding away at that. So again, kind of similar spaces right now that ACME and GreenKo are playing in. Where have you identified, the major use cases or the potential offtake for whether it's green hydrogen or green ammonia? And this could be like within the country or, even outside. So where do you see the market coming over the next 5 years or so?
Thank you for having me here. Before I answer directly to that question,
I don't think he's audible. If the mic could be.
yeah, before I answer this question directly, let me first briefly introduce you my company. I represent a company called ACME Cleantech, which is one of the leading players in the RE space in the country. It has an aspiration of achieving a target production of 10 million metric tons of green ammonia by 2030. And in that direction, it is one of the first company to commission the world's first integrated green hydrogen and green ammonia plant in Bikaner in India. Because it's a commercial pilot project, the throughput capacity is less. It's just 5 TPD capacity. But then the agenda for this project was to derive learnings from it and incorporate the learnings in our upcoming plant of a much larger capacity in Oman, that is of 1.2 million metric tons of ammonia in a port called Duqm Port, which will be coming in two phases. In the first phase, 300 TPD, and in the second phase, it will be 3,300 TPD. Now, to answer the question, the biggest challenge for any kind of such level of project is to have an offtake agreement in place and to locate the key sector areas where we need to target the supplies of these green ammonia. To that extent, it's in the public domain. I can share that with you that for the first stage of 100% offtake agreement is in place, and it will go to a company which is into the fertilizer segment, because the fertilizer is one of the biggest consumer of ammonia, so to say. So fertilizer is one sector. We are also targeting the power consumer, the power sector. We may also target the sectors like transportation. There are many upcoming, the marine ships which are retrofitting to use ammonia as a fuel. And apart from these, there are other industries like, the hard to abate industries like steel is there. Then we have the coal-fired thermal station plants are there. So these are some of the key areas which we will be targeting. But then yes, to start with, fertilizer looks very easy and easy to crack, both in the international terms as well as in the Indian terms. I'll be talking more in detail about the fertilizer in my upcoming.
Okay. Now, thanks for that. And coming now to Naeem, who had a very interesting take on the technology to get to green hydrogen. So Naeem, and I'll put that in with a question that we had earlier. Sorry.
Yeah, please.
Yeah. So, my first introduction into this world of green hydrogen was with the 1-1-1 equation. A decade from now, $1 to produce 1 kilogram of hydrogen. There was something which I saw. Was that just a dream, or is that a realistic number? What's your take on the commercial, not just the viability, but, is that realistic, or if not, what is realistic?
First of all, let me thank you, everyone, for hosting us here and give us opportunity to talk, to discuss such an important topic on green hydrogen. I would also like to thank you, DIT and FCDO department, to arrange this for us to be here today. I think the more important, what we need to understand, the imminent threat of climate change, that how many tons of carbon emissions we produce in at the moment, and what is the technological solution we have to replace carbon emissions. The world currently producing 50 billion tons of carbon emissions every single year, which 35 billion tons are from transportation sector, which we cannot carry on by 2035. It must be replaced. When it comes down to the cost of hydrogen production and safety issues, the whole industry is obviously, it's a new industry. It's being developed yet. We ourselves, as a Locus Energy, are the manufacturer of electrolyzers and a waste to hydrogen plant. So we can actually talk about the prices, the cost of production, delivery, and utilization. I think we strongly believe that the achieving production and delivery of hydrogen cost $1 is kind of dream, but realistically we can achieve $3 per kg price, because the production cost of hydrogen is not the only issue, but storage, transportation, and utilization also another cost. Hydrogen is already being utilized in many different industries for decades, but it's never been a green hydrogen before. It's been blue, gray, and pink hydrogen. That when the industry is ready for green hydrogen, we gotta look at. We must look at the grid. Is a grid ready to accept green hydrogen, or do we need to replicate the grid because the atom is quite brittle to the current infrastructure? But at the same time, we've been running trials blending hydrogen with natural gas at 20%, 30%, and up to 50%, and we never seen any problems on the other side where the hydrogen is being utilized. Transportation is one of the problems we are facing at the moment, but at the same time, we can at the moment assume or plan we might be able to transport hydrogen under the ground through the gas grid, but it must contain the polymer resins lining within the either current infrastructure or new infrastructure. At the same time, each country must grow their economy, or to sustain the economy. Green hydrogen market has created massive gap for the investments, ethical green investments, also creating large number of jobs in next couple of decades to come. India produced large number of engineers who need jobs. Jobs must be green. We cannot carry on the way all the system carry on using the fossil fuel systems. We also like to talk about the relation between UK and India and collaboration to utilize the knowledge, expertise, and the technological platform to share the expertise. We actually manufacturing electrolyzers since 2014, but the market just emerged in last couple of years. The production cost of electrolyzer used to be a couple of $1,000s per kilowatt. But today we are producing electrolyzer which is costing us not more than $350 per kilowatt, which is significantly different than the past. I think the cost also going to reduce down to $250 per kilowatt. But the cost of hydrogen production is not the issue, but the storage and transportation and utilization, because hydrogen must be cooled down to 20-25 degree temperature, and temperature must be kept at the same level for 24/7, and that cost must be added onto the production cost. Transportation issues are, hydrogen is energy intensive product. 3 times, it contains 3 times more energy than natural gas. But when it comes down to storage, volumetric issues are completely different. But same time, 1 kg hydrogen can drive a standard car for 100 kilometers. So we might be able, financial viability is obviously is one of the main issues we're looking at. That is a viable for consumers. That if consumers paying $3 to $5 per kg of hydrogen and driving a standard car for 100 kilometers, definitely is better than diesel or petrol car. I would definitely like to talk about what actually Will Todd said about the battery storage. Electrification, yes, is a good initiative, but we must look at the battery storage and processing cost and recycling of battery issues. I think both industries work together, that side by side, to decarbonize the industries. For example, the steel industry must be decarbonized first, so I think hydrogen will help. Steel industry, cement industry, leather, textile industry, agricultural industry. That's where actually hydrogen will play a vital role.
Yeah. So those are a lot of very, very interesting points. Right now, you've touched upon almost every aspect of it, from the environmental, the cost of carbonization to the environment, to the requirement for green jobs, and shifting of the engineering roles from fossil fuels to more sustainable areas of employment, to the point that once you get there to even $3 to $5 a kilo, there are use cases, viable use cases, especially in the area of transportation. The question is, how do you get there? And you've also touched upon the issues of storage and everything. So, okay, so let's expand on those a little further. Will, again, my question to you is one of the points that Naeem just made. Given the intermittency of generation of renewables, and we are talking green hydrogen, which by definition would mean 100% green electricity, right? Hydrogen itself possibly as a format of storage, but generation of hydrogen also requiring some form of storage to get there. So how do we balance this out?
Yeah, thank you. So I think, first of all, what's great is when we've talked about, I started with talking about commercial green hydrogen. A lot of us here are talking about ammonia and running our electrolyzers 24/7 in a commercial manner, which is great, because not everyone thinks that way, but that's great. So that's a good foundation. So then, like you say, on the back of that, in order to meet the criteria, we need to have 24/7 availability of green electrons. Right now, I think one of the best storage technologies out there is pumped hydro, right? I mean, it provides a very low levelized cost of storage. The issue will be, as we grow, that there's not an infinite availability of sites to deploy pumped hydro. And if we do see a more decentralization of green hydrogen production, we're going to need smaller assets, and pumped hydro assets are typically very large, right? So where we see the opportunity is going back to what we said earlier, affordability. To solve this, you need to have some means of energy storage which is looking at a longer duration and is able to provide that very, very low cost to make these project economics work. And I think there's a point here where a buzzword in the energy storage business right now is long duration, right? People are saying we need an 8-hour duration battery, we need a 10-hour duration battery, as if lithium ion can't do that. I think let's all be clear, we all have phones and laptops running on lithium ion that can run for 24 hours plus. So the issue is not the technical capability of the storage or the battery. The issue is all about cost. And so what we need to see is manufacturers really solve for cost at the expense of maybe being able to deploy your battery in 1 hour. But if you can get the cost down, then you can provide a solution to provide that green 24/7 supply of electricity. And that's what we need to be doing. Full disclosure, I'm from a sodium battery company, so I would say that, but I genuinely believe that's the way that we should be approaching the topic, and then the best technology will win.
So are you looking at developing solutions specifically for something like green hydrogen?
Yeah, so there's two pieces to that. I think there's okay, let's set the criteria of the battery, which we are looking for what I would classify as medium duration, but over 4 hours. Something that can replicate the needs, the capabilities of pumped hydro on a modular level. The second piece is to actually being able to control your green electrons is actually to be able to set the set point for your electrolyzer, right? So if we look at a system level, if you're running, it's going to depend project by project, location, all the rest of it, what electrolyzer you choose. But there will need to be some degree of heat integration in the future, I think, to make project economics work. And in order to set that heat integration to work, you're going to want to control tightly your electrical input, right? If you want to run endothermically on an SOEC to make use of a waste heat stream, you're going to want that control. And so we are looking towards playing that role and providing a battery that can essentially provide resource adequacy on a low levelized cost of storage basis.
Okay. Michèle, we've talked about green hydrogen. There is some amount of talk also of blue hydrogen with CCUS, carbon capture, utilization and storage. Now I was reading up, and what the little I read, and this may not be correct information, was that the amount of carbon capture that's physically actually happened is not very much. At least the data on it is very patchy. So I was reading about the US, where they had done 0.1 million ton, and they were targeting, and this is a year-old information, and they were targeting to do 1 million ton in the next year. So is blue hydrogen and CCUS something that is a big play, or is blue hydrogen not worth it? How does it compare cost-wise with green? Your thoughts?
There are some specific locations where you can achieve, I would say, a very high rate of carbon capture, and also specific location where you can store a large quantity of CO2. So in this very specific location, there is value to develop this kind of project, provided that your customers are also willing to purchase this product based on its carbon intensity. And the more you capture, the better the carbon intensity is. So within Gentari, we are currently developing one project in Canada that achieve that kind of very high level of carbon capture, and we rely on an existing CO2 network and also CO2 capacity storage. So it's in Canada. But beyond that, I would say what is important is to provide the customer with the solution that they want. And it's all about, first of all, carbon intensity. So whatever the color, the discussion is around carbon intensity. Second, affordability. Affordability is maybe not the 111, it is the benchmark the customer is having. So if I take a concrete example, developed by Hemplus, the renewable arm of Gentari in India, they have today currently customers looking for integrated solution. So they started with green electron, and now they are expanding further in their quest to decarbonize their own assets. And today they are looking on a hydrogen-based solution or maybe ammonia-based solution, because today they have already a cracking solution for ammonia on site. So it exists physically. So it depends on what they have, and the purpose is then to propose a solution, in that case hydrogen-based, small size, but as such, we do not have to reach the $1. We have to reach the benchmark of the customer, and the price may be higher. Second, also, when we compare to $3 or to $1, We have also to bear in mind that in a lot of countries, the price of fuel is subsidized. So it's also about having the discussion, and what we are having also within Gentari, with each and every state policymakers, in order also to find a solution to swap the subsidies from one pocket to another one, in order to promote and to accelerate the energy transition.
Okay, thank you so much. So what I understand is that it's a technology which can be of various levels of scale. So decentralized and small, and very, very large and extremely voluminous. So to that extent, following some of the parallels of, say, how solar has been growing in the country. Again, my question then to you, Arnav, is are you also looking at decentralized C&I offerings for green hydrogen and green ammonia?
No, yeah, we are. In fact, if we look at it, see, there are different use cases of hydrogen. If we look at the sectors that are active or are going to be active, refineries, for example, right? Now, refineries are going to be decentralized. We know that the government of India has an initiative where they're trying to aggregate all of them and come up with an aggregate tender. That's great, but the use, end of the day, is going to be on those decentralized plants. So that segment definitely exists, and that will be one of our targets. But at the same time, when it comes to other derivatives, for example, in the fertilizer sector, if you're talking about green ammonia, that can be a mix, right? I mean, there can still be a C&I customer in India who will be willing to purchase that, or there can be international off-takers, right? But there can be a mix of different elements, a mix of different customer bases that we can cater to, and that's the way we would like to go as well, right?
Okay.
If I may add something on
please,
that. Yeah, it's all about the carbon intensity, the customer, and be the domestic customer or international customer is willing to buy. And at the end of the day also, I will try to speak loud. We also see that the trading market as a role to play also to value the green certificates. And it will contribute also to the affordability of the solution.
Right, yes. Okay, a point well made. And I think very poetic that we're talking of a disruptive technology and then we are faced by disruption as we speak. Shiromani, coming to you again. Where is the play? Is it really looking at private players? I mean, that's what you had said earlier. So then you and, say, GreenKo, you're all really, and maybe AM+, you're all targeting industrial players for their own decarbonization as step one? Is that also how you're looking at the market right now? Okay. And then, because you've already done pilot scale manufacturing, etc., again, not something I understand the chemistry of at all, or the physics or whatever it is. But you read about the PEM electrolyzers and you read about the alkaline technology. And again, there is this debate between which of the two is more futuristic, where is it going? So which direction have you taken and why?
Yeah, there are very many
Just
views.
speak up, please, as loud as you can.
Yeah, so there are many views on this, and see, there are predominantly three technologies as far as the electrolyzers are concerned. One is the alkaline-based technology, which is the older one and which is more sort of established and economically more viable. Second one is the PM technology, which is also viable and it has been tried and tested. It is also operational and tried and tested, but it's little bit expensive. And the third one, which is also in the experimentative stage, but then it's going to grow with time, and that's the SOEC, solid oxide electrolyzers. So, but then out of these, I would say that these technologies cannot be pitted one against the other. The technologies needs to be accepted based on the merit of the projects, because each and every electrolyzers or the technologies have their own advantages and disadvantages. Talking about the PM technology, the first thing is it is little expensive, but then the advantage with this is that it can operate on a larger transient base, which means that if the intermittency is there, it will still operate with a higher efficiency. That is one. The second one is the alkaline base, which is tried, tested, established. It is much, in cost-wise manner, it is cheaper than the PEM technology, and but then it cannot operate that efficiently under a wider intermittency. So it can be established. It can be for the projects which are there in areas which have lesser intermittencies. So it will give the best results. And SOEC also is going on. So I think these three technologies and the other upcoming technologies, also the AEM technology. So these all technologies should not be pitted against each other, rather than based on the merit and based on the requirement of the project should be adopted. As far as ACME is concerned, we have proceeded ahead and we have incorporated alkaline electrolyzers in our both the projects, whether it be Oman projects as well as in India Bikaner projects. So that's my take on that.
If I may add to that, I actually completely agree with Shiromani. Here, when it comes to electrolyzers, or the types of electrolyzers, the need is to adopt a horses for courses kind of a approach, right? If you're looking for a cheap, proven technology, which have worked for
cheap
decades.
is relatively speaking.
Relatively cheap. Well, yeah. Relatively cheaper as compared to the others, but something that has been proven over decades of performances, then alkaline is the way to go. But of course, for that, you'll have to have a stable base load power. If you have that, in today's time, that's definitely the technology to go for, which is what we are doing. However, if you are limited by space, if you are limited by intermittency and fluctuation of RE power, then alkaline is probably not the right choice. Then you would probably go for PEM today. Now, when we are talking about, again, there's a danger in, siloing them this way as well, because while we are talking about electrolyzer technology, the real evolution of those technologies have happened only in the last few years, right? While alkaline as an electrolyzer has been there for 100 years, but real evolution is only happening about now. So in the next 10 years, while newer technologies will come up, and they should, we need them, the world needs them, but at the same time, all of the existing technologies will continue to evolve too. So the time will basically, where you are and what kind of, base you have in terms of power, in terms of your requirements, in terms of your production capacity, that will really dictate the kind of electrolyzers that you would need to go for.
Naeem, my last question for the panel. What does India need to do? Because you would have read about India's ambition of becoming a global green hydrogen hub. What are the areas we'll need to invest in to ensure that we have a leading edge that will get us there? Because simply adopting existing technologies from around the world is not going to make it happen.
I would like to start with the first.
As loud as you can, please.
Can I use yours? I would like to start with why hydrogen, or is it optional, or is it inevitable? Why we actually trying to implement this new energy into the market? I would say that as an environmental scientist that this is the only way forward for the world, that there isn't any other option for us left other than the green hydrogen. The climate change is number one priority for the world, and it's not only about the cost factor. The main is it's about the survival of the planet. That if we do not act today, or if we do not act fast enough, the consequences are beyond the measurements or imagination, that we're already facing the disasters all around the world. The cost can be controlled. I would give a simple example of mobile phones. Like, when he started, what was the cost of the mobile phone, or DVD players? Like at the beginning, I remember buying a DVD player for £800, but the same DVD player or better quality I bought for £20 in a couple of years. So the cost would definitely go down. But there's another sector which is not being explored when it comes down to the green hydrogen, is waste to green hydrogen. We ourselves actually manufactured an industrial scale plant in Tamil Nadu, and we've been working on it for the past 3 years, that the technology is tested and proven to produce green hydrogen out of waste and biomass. That is the only green hydrogen which can compare with electrolyzer-based green hydrogen cost. When we talk about $1 per kg, yes, if the green hydrogen produced from the waste, yes, definitely it can be sold to the market for $1 per kg right now. That we have the technology to demonstrate to the authorities, that we already invited the government to come and have a look at how the green hydrogen is being produced. What India really needs to do to actually become the market leader in green hydrogen, I think it's to do with the skill set, the knowledge, the academic knowledge, expertise, producing engineers. That being in UK, that we do face problem with the skill set. We don't have enough skill set to work in this industry, expertise, the qualification, the knowledge. But India produce a large number of engineers looking for jobs. This is where we actually offering. We already employed a large number of engineers in Tamil Nadu. We looking to actually employ engineers from India working in UK. That will help both economies to grow together. Building bridges, sharing knowledge is the most beneficial act. We can work on it at the moment. And I think this friendship, this partnership between UK and India will help the world. We are already actually exporting these technologies out of India to the world. And we want to increase the volume of the manufacturing side. The world must grow the economy. That either are we planning growing economy ethical way, or we are going to grow the economy with large number of production of carbon emissions, that which our kids will be paying the price for it. That is not the. I think we should think and plan more ethical investments, ethical business plans, and energy production. There's no doubt green hydrogen is a zero emission. It needed to decarbonize the transportation sector and the manufacturing sector. I do not see any other option we have left in hand.
Okay. Michèle, you wanted to say something?
Yeah, and personally, I'm very, very optimistic and positive about the current situation in India. India, for me, has taken the stage. Why so? For many reasons. We already elaborated on the fact that India is very well placed with regard to renewable energy prices, with regard also to storage, 24/7 renewable energy. And also, India is having also a strong energy infrastructure, in an integrated energy grid. And this is all the element of the recipe that really will propel India ahead. I call it the race, not only to decarbonize its own economy, but also to be a strong exporter of renewable energy. And beyond the electron, there is also the question of skills, expertise, and there are a lot in India already there. Civil engineer, and building on that is quite easy for India to speed up. And lastly, also a strong demand and the willingness for 2047 to be energy autonomous, and for 2070 to be net zero carbon. So as such, it will support the stronger development of renewables, be it electrons and molecules, And it's what we believe also in Gentari. Gentari, with the project we have in India, up to 1 million ton of ammonia in 2 different states. And we are currently developing them with a COD by 2027, up to 1 million ton of ammonia. So this is clearly the demonstration that it's not only a belief, it's a reality.
Thank you, and I think that's music to everyone's ears sitting in this room. You wanted to say something about it, Will?
Yeah, I don't think I'm qualified to say exactly what India needs to do, but maybe reflecting a little bit as a technology developer. We've talked about different types of electrolyzers, different types of batteries. I think let's get real, let's get to action now. We need to take things out of the lab and out of test beds, and what will be key to actually commercializing this will be scale, is my belief, right? Manufacturing and scale. That's what's going to enable large-scale green hydrogen projects to actually be deployed. It's not about theoreticals, right? We need scale, and I think that's what, in India, we've seen proven very clearly that things can be scaled up and manufactured here to high quality, and there's a real opportunity now about let's do less work about inventing new technology. Let's get onto scaling those proven and emerging technologies.
Okay, so let's get out of the lab and get onto the streets.
And that's coming from someone who spent a lot of time developing stuff in a lab. But
any last thoughts from Shiromani or Arnav before we wind up?
Yeah, I think India is very well poised to achieve its ambitious target, whatever it has set in Glasgow COP26 meeting. India has set a very distinct target of 3 milestones, in fact. By 2030, it has to achieve almost 500 gigawatt of renewable energy. 50% of its total energy should come from renewable energy space, and then 45% reduction, 1 billion reduction of carbon dioxide by 2030, and so on and so forth. So, and the second milestone is 2070, by which India aims to achieve the net zero target. And there is one more target, is 2047, by which India achieves or aims to become energy independent. So that's how the targets are set, and India is well poised. And the biggest advantage with India is that India has actually moved and learned and gone across the learning curve with respect to the, bringing down the cost of renewable energy. In 2010, when the solar mission was announced, that point in time, the solar energy cost was phenomenally high. But then with a period, with strategically interventions, government interventions, by 2018, in fact, ACME was the first company to hit the grid parity pricing of, in dollar terms, 3 cents per unit. So that's how the India has achieved and reduced the cost of renewable energy. So no wonder in times to come, the same competency can be implemented and to bring down the cost of hydrogen production. Okay. So I think very well poised.
Okay. Last few words.
Yes. Thank you. I think what we have seen in the last couple of years was probably what was missing earlier is a collective will. We definitely see that now. And I'll just say this, when there is a collective will, mountains can be moved, and we'll get there.
On that optimistic note, I want to thank my very erudite and high energy panel for their thoughts and sharing their expertise with the audience. I hope it was an interesting session for everyone. If we have a couple of quick questions, we can take them. If you have questions, please address them to the panelists you would want to answer. We have one right there.
For this session, a lot of hidden things have been came about hydrogen here today. The second thing, actually, I'm a fan of Nitin G. Gadkari sir. Usually they talk about hydrogen a lot in their speech. Okay, my 3 small queries. The first is, what is the cost of hydrogen today? And what would it be after 5 years, 10 years and 15 years? And the same about availability of hydrogen today, after 5 years, 10 years and 15 years. And I want to talk about, want to know whether it is going to be available under petrol pump, or it will create its own name, like say hydrogen pump in future.
Okay, Naeem, quick answers please, so we can take one more question.
I think the quick answer is yes. $3 per kg is rightly available right now, today, for hydrogen. We can guarantee that as a locus energy. We already producing hydrogen in India for past 3 years. When it comes down to petrol station, that there is a different kind of dispensers require manufacturing. A lot of companies manufacturing dispensers to fuel hydrogen cars. I think more than dispensers, we need to develop engine first, hydrogen engine. I think more than 70-80% car manufacturers already manufacturing hydrogen engine. We also manufacture hydrogen truck engine in India, and we're already rolling out the production of trucks, which will be running trains. Also, marine industry will be helping agricultural industry. So it is happening. I think we need to work on to fast track this process instead waiting. Yep.
Okay. There was one more question, or all right. Then we can. I think we're also out of time, so we'll wrap up. Thank you everyone for being here, and thank you everyone for listening.
Yeah, thank you to our panelists. Thank you for demystifying green hydrogen for us.